At home, amidst half-empty boxes and the smell of old furniture, he heard a knock at the door. A man in an expensive suit stood on the doorstep, his face serious. Michael Brooks. Yes. My name is Thomas Grayson. I represent a financial company, called Fulton Credit. Michael felt something cold inside him. How can I help you? Grayson took a folder out of his briefcase and opened it. Your parents took out a substantial loan, Mr. Brooks, and according to the documents, you are their sole heir. Wait. What? I don't know about any loan. Unfortunately, you do now. The debt is $200,000. Michael felt dizzy. This must be a mistake. Grayson shook his head. No, there's no mistake. Your parents didn't pay off that debt. Now it's yours. Michael laughed, nervously, sharply. Listen, you're confusing things. I didn't know anything about this loan at all, and it doesn't matter, Mr. Brooks. An inheritance is not only property, but also financial obligations. Michael ran his hand over his face, trying to collect his thoughts. What if I refuse the inheritance? Grayson sighed. In that case, all of your parents' assets will be used to cover the debt. But they only have this house. That's right, Grayson nodded. The house will be sold. But it's still not enough. Michael clutched his head. Oh no, you mean I'm going to lose my house and still owe money? That's right. Michael closed his eyes. It couldn't be true. His parents had never mentioned any debt. What did they spend all that money on? Had Michael Brooks' life had already changed forever. But he didn't know how much. After talking to Thomas Grayson, Michael sat on the couch for a long time, staring at the wall. $200,000 in debt. His parents had never told him about it. No hints, no warnings. He didn't know what was worse, the debt itself or the fact that they were hiding the truth from him. When the fear went away, anger came. How could they do this to him? Michael started digging through the papers his parents had left behind. He pulled out old bills, documents, receipts, nothing that could explain where the damned $200,000 came from. And then he found the letter. A white envelope card with no stamp, no address. Just his name, Michael. Alarmed, he tore open the envelope. His father's handwriting. He recognized the handwriting immediately. Son, if you're reading this, we're gone. Oh no, and you probably already know about the debt. I know you are angry. You have every right to be angry. We never wanted to get you involved in this. We thought we could pay it all off, but life has changed. Michael ran his tongue over his dry lips. I can't tell you everything. Some things are better left in the past. But know that we didn't do it for ourselves. We wanted to save our family. We believed we could get out. We're so sorry. Dad. He read the letter 3 times. Save the family. From what? What did he mean by I can't tell you everything? Thousands of thoughts spun in his head. Had been lying to him all his life. Where had the money gone? What were they hiding? And most importantly, what should he do now? He thought that the worst thing was debt. But the truth would be much worse. $200,000 in debt is already terrible. But when you don't know what the money was spent on, the fear becomes even stronger. Michael had to find out the truth. He was sitting in his parents' living room, surrounded by papers that didn't give him any answers. No big purchases, no lavish spending, no expensive traveling. But where had that money gone? Michael pulled out his phone and opened online banking. He needed to check the flow of funds over the past few years. When he started scrolling through the statements, his eyes lit up. At first, he saw the usual expenses, bills, groceries, utilities. But then something strange appeared. Regular transfers to an unknown account. Every month. The exact amounts were 5,000, 7,000, 10,000. And it all started 6 years ago. Michael felt his skin break out in a cold sweat. To whom and for what were his parents paying this kind of money? The record showed the name of the recipient, Weston Financial. Michael opened his browser and entered the name. The search returned several results. One of them was particularly disturbing. Weston Finance is a private financial company that provides fast loans at high interest rates. They are known for aggressive debt collection. Michael tightened his grip on the phone. His parents had fallen into the trap of loan sharks. He found the number and pressed call. Several long rings followed. Finally, a hoarse voice, Weston Financial going ahead. My name is Michael Brooks. I'd like to inquire about my parents' accounts. Oh, Mr. Brooks, we've been expecting your call. You have. They're here now, aren't you? Michael felt a chill run down his spine. These people knew his parents were dead, and they were waiting for him. He had been calling to get answers. But now he realized that they wanted something from him. Debt can be a trap. But what if your parents didn't just get into trouble, but were deliberately put in it? Michael Brooks had to find out the truth. We've been waiting for your call, Mr. Brooks. The words of the man from Weston Financial sounded almost friendly. But Michael sensed a hidden threat. What do you mean? Your parents had a business relationship with us. Now this debt is yours. What did they borrow the money for? A few seconds of silence. We don't disclose confidential details. But if you are interested in learning more, I can give you the contact of a person who knew your family well. Who is it? Danny Walsh, Michael tensed. The name was familiar. His father had sometimes mentioned Danny in conversation. He was a family friend. But what if he was not a friend, but someone who had led them into a trap? Danny agreed to talk. Michael found him in a bar, a tall man in an expensive suit who looked far too successful to be just an acquaintance of his father's. You look like Harold, Danny said as Michael sat down across from him. I don't think I meant that as a compliment. Danny smiled. They told you your father was in debt. Yes, I was. And that you had something to do with it. Danny took a sip of whiskey. I helped him invest. You mean lose money? Danny wasn't smiling anymore. Harold wanted to win big. I just opened the door for him. The door to the debt pit. It was his choice, boy. Michael clenched his fists. What was he betting on? Danny looked at him carefully. Are you sure you want to know? Michael's father made a risky bet. But on what? And would he have to pay the price? A home is more than just walls. It's a place where memories are kept, where you feel safe. But what do you do when it no longer belongs to you? Michael Brooks learned this the hard way. The morning after his meeting with Danny Walsh, Michael received a letter. It was from the bank. He opened the envelope and skimmed the lines. Dear Mr. Brooks, we have to inform you that due to your father's debt, the house will be auctioned off to pay off the debt. You must vacate the property within 30 days. His fingers squeezed the paper until it nearly tore. 30 days. His house, all that was left of his parents, was no longer his. Michael rushed to the bank. He talked to the manager, demanded to reconsider the case, and looked for any way to save the house. But there was only one answer. Your father had mortgaged the property to get a loan. Without repayment of the debt, the bank is forced to seize it. But he was already dead. The manager just threw up his hands. The debt doesn't disappear after death, Mr. Brooks. That evening he received another call. Mr. Brooks, a familiar, hoarse voice said, What more do you want? You've already taken the house. But that's not enough. He felt cold inside. What do you mean? The house doesn't cover the whole debt. You still owe us money." Michael felt his heart beat faster. They would not leave him alone. He had lost everything. But what if the worst was yet to come? People don't think about debt until it comes knocking. Michael Brooks thought the worst was over, but the debt collectors were of a different opinion. The phone rang again. "Mr. Brooks, I don't think you understand. The sale of the house only covered part of the debt." "How much more?" $120,000. Michael felt something tighten in his chest. "I don't have that kind of money." "That's your problem, not ours." What do you want me to do?" "We'll find a way to solve this. Together." And the call ended. 120,000. Even if he sold his car and all his personal belongings, it would not be enough. He went to the bank hoping to get a loan, but was turned down. "I'm sorry, you don't have any collateral," the manager said. "What am I supposed to do?" The manager just threw up his hands. The same day, Danny Walsh called me. "I heard you were in trouble. You know all about them. I have a proposition. I don't want to get into any more shit. Maybe this is the only way out. Danny's offering to help. But what if it's another trap? There are people you can't be in debt to. Collectors don't call for no reason. They don't forget and they don't forgive." Michael Brooks would soon realize this the hard way. After receiving a call from Danny Walsh, Michael felt trapped. One of the debt collectors were demanding $120,000, and Walsh was offering help. He didn't know who to be more afraid of. That same night, he woke up to a strange sound. A dull knock on the window. He got up, went over, and peered through the blinds. It was pitch black, but when he opened the door, there was an envelope on the threshold. There was no address. Inside was a photo of himself, taken today. The next day, the phone rang again. "I see you got our message, Mr. Brooks. What do you want from me?" "You know what? We've given you plenty of time." "I don't have the money." "Then we'll have to find another way." Short beeps. Michael sat down on the bed, feeling a chill run through him. They weren't joking. In the evening, he called Danny. "So, you decided to talk. I don't have a choice. There always is. Not all of them are good. What do you suggest?" We should meet." Michael realized that if he went to this meeting, there might be no turning back. Collectors play hardball, but can he trust Danny Walsh, or is he just another wolf waiting to strike? There are some things that are better never to know. But when the truth starts to come out, there is no turning back. Michael Brooks was one step away from a discovery that would change everything. Michael arrived at the appointed place, an old bar on the outskirts of town. Danny was sitting in the corner, slowly sipping a whiskey. "Glad you could make it," he said, nodding to an empty chair. Michael sat down, not taking his eyes off him. "Stop playing the game. What do you know about my father's debts?" Danny smiled and took a sip. "Too much." "Explain." "Your father. He wasn't the man you thought he was." Michael felt his shoulders tense. "What does that mean?" Danny twirled the glass in his hands. "He got into a business he shouldn't have been in. He thought he could win, but he lost." "What are you talking about?" Danny sighed. Your father didn't just work with banks. He got into business with people he shouldn't have. Loan sharks. Worse." Michael felt his heart speed up. "What do they want from me?" "They want their money back, and they don't care how." Danny put his glass on the table and leaned forward. "I'll tell you this, either you find the money or you have to do favors." "What kind of favors?" "Let's just say it's not exactly legal." Michael swallowed the dry lump in his throat. "I don't have a choice, do I?" Danny just smiled sadly. There never was. Michael had thought his father was a victim, But now he was beginning to suspect that he had brought himself into this world, and his son along with him. As long as you have money, you have friends. But when you are bankrupt and in debt, you are alone. Michael Brooks felt this to the fullest. He decided to try the last option, to turn to people who could still help. First, he called his old friend, Marcus. "Bro, I'd love to help, but I'm in a bit of a pickle right now. I'm not asking for much, just a loan. I'm sorry, Mike. I can't do it. Next call is for Cousin Joe. 120,000. Are you out of your mind? I'll pay you back." Forget it, man. Ringing. His last hope was Aunt Sarah. "I knew your father would kill you sooner or later," she said coldly. "It's not my fault, but you are paying for him. It always happens. Will you help me? And I'm sorry, Michael." And she hung up. He was all alone. He had no money. No one wanted to help, and the debt collectors were waiting. Michael sat in a dark room, staring at the phone. He had only one number to call. Danny Walsh. He pressed call. "Nah, that's good," Danny said. "I knew you'd call back." The debt collectors gave him a choicing money or a favor. Michael made the call. But would this choice be his biggest mistake? Some doors, once you open them, don't close. Michael Brooks had made the call. And now there was no turning back. Danny Walsh arranged a meeting in an abandoned warehouse outside of town. When Michael arrived, Danny was already waiting, smoking a cigar. I'm glad you're finally starting to think straight. Just tell me what needs to be done." Danny smiled. "It's a very simple task. You need to give one thing to one person." "What is it?" Danny opened the glove compartment of his car and took out a small black bag. "And you don't want to know." Michael got behind the wheel and drove to the designated location, a motel on the outskirts of town. His heart was pounding. He didn't know what he was carrying, but he knew it was something dangerous. What if the police stopped him? What if it was a trap? Every kilometer seemed like an eternity. The motel looked abandoned. He parked and got out of the car. When a man in a dark coat was waiting at the door. "Are you from Danny?" "Yeah." Michael held out his bag. The man nodded, took it, and left without another word. That was it. That was the assignment. He had done it. But he felt as if he had crossed a line that was better left untouched. He gave the bag back. But what if his name now appeared on other people's lists? And will the debt collectors really leave him alone? Some stories don't have happy endings. Some just end. The question is how. Michael thought handing over the bag was his way out, but the next day he realized he was wrong. The phone rang. "You did well, Michael," Danny's voice said. "Is that all? We're all square." Danny laughed. "Oh, no, man. It was only the first step." Michael felt his insides go cold. "Are we agreed on one task? Are you really that knave?" Danny spoke calmly, almost calculatingly. Michael went outside. He felt like he was being watched. Every passerby seemed suspicious. Every car that drove by slowly caused him to panic. He thought he could just go back to his normal life. But you don't get out of this business. He dialed the police. His finger hovered over the call button. If he turned Danny in, they would find him for sure. If he didn't, he'd be stuck in this shit forever. He took a deep breath and pressed delete number. The destinies are not always written by our hands. Michael Brooks made a choice. But was it the right one? What would you do if you were Michael? Is it possible to forgive parents who have left you with only debts? Write in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.